Well, welcome. It is Thursday night, 8 o'clock, a Loaded Mag special. Me and Richie. The rest of the boys are Dawson or doing something. And as we all know, Daz has a face for radio, so he's not coming on either. So we're going to bring you a special tonight. We're with you for about an hour, myself and Richie, and we will bring you our special guest tonight, Steve Beharall, head of the Newcastle United Foundation, building a United future. So we are going to, without further ado, bring Steve on, and we're pretty much for the hour going to chat all things foundation. He's going to give us an update about how he got to the foundation, early career, because he was at Newcastle United many moons ago, but we'll let him tell his own story. We're going to tell you a good bit about Murray House, what's happening with it. We've got some pretty snazzy pictures to show you, developments. And I'm sure as the hour progresses, Steve will tell us what's going on, including about a game changer and a brand new service. As you can see, flying along the bottom there, we will tell you all about that as we get going. So without further ado, let's welcome Steve to the show. Steve, good evening, mate. How are you?
Good evening, Steve.
Evening.
Thanks very much for coming on. We've obviously been chatting for a while. I text you. I contact you through Twitter. And I was like, do you want to come on the show, mate? And you're like, do you know what, Martin? That'd be great, but I'm going on my holidays. Drop us an email when I get back, and we'll see what we can do. And fair play to you, true to your word. We had a really good phone call probably about 2 weeks ago, was it, I think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago. Really good chat. I probably could have spent more than the kind of 50 minutes we spent chatting about multiple things around Newcastle and everything else. Really enjoyed it, and it was a fascinating listen early on. So obviously, for those who don't know, you are the head of the Newcastle United Foundation. You've been in Newcastle and around the club for plenty of years. So for those that don't know, and as we chatted on the phone, kick us off with how did you end up at Newcastle? How did you get to the foundation? So give us the early part of the story as to how we got into that.
It depends how far back you want to go, Martin. I suppose my relationship with Newcastle United would have been the first team manager. Ozzy Ardiles would have been the first team manager, and Colin Suggett would have been the youth team manager. So I got as close as a couple of week trial at the old training ground at Benwell. So you're talking late 80s, early 90s. So I, came through what would have been the old Centre of Excellence system, where you played for your boys' club and you trained with the club now and again. But didn't get any further than that. So that was like my first introduction to the club. And bearing in mind, my family weren't football fans. Like, there was no drive for me or my brother to get involved in football. We just kind of fell into it. And then the second, interestingly for me, the second experience with the club was through university. I needed to find a 12-week work placement. So I applied to the club when before the foundation, it was a football in the community. And applied and offered myself for 12 weeks for free, and they wouldn't take us. So that was my next. That's good. But the way it's worked out, I'm not bitter about it. It worked out okay. Yeah. But so the Newcastle City Council had their own version of football development scheme, which, looking back, was just an absolute melting pot of talent. And because we were the city council, like, you just had to be really good, because the council, you sort of pay your taxes to and take your bins out, but we were football development. And if I think of the coaches that came through that time, you've got John Carver was there at the very beginning. You had people like Barney Jones, who sort of is the godfather of coaching in the Northeast. But people like Simon Smith, goalkeeper coach, was one of the coaches there. Ben Sadler, first team coach at Leicester City, was there. Neil Winskills, under 18s. Ben Dawson, first team development coach. Just goes up. The list goes on and on of people who were in that environment. So I started there in '95, and then Alan Irvin, who was then the academy director in about '98, invited us to come in '99 to become an assistant coach at the academy. And that sort of relationship continued from '99 as a part-time coach until about 2016, where I was involved in working with lots of the lads who are in and around the first team and have gone on to football elsewhere. So I'm still involved at the academy. I still do a couple of hours on a Friday night with the development centre just to remind myself that really I'm still a football coach. But I suppose in 2016, Kate Bradley, who was the head of foundation, sort of invited us to come and get involved in the foundation. And at that point, I sort of had to make a decision between a full-time career at the academy or a different fork in the road with the foundation. And genuinely, I just felt I could help more kids fall in love with the game with the foundation. And I kind of made that decision in 2016. And then that's just it. From that role as an operations manager, I found the opportunity to become the head of foundation, and that's kind of how I ended up here. But I suppose all of that since like the late 80s, my relationship with the club had been as like trying to be a player and then as an employee. So I've got although I've born and bred in the East End of Newcastle, I've always worked here. I went away to university and came back. Like up until probably about 5 years ago, the club for me was where I was employed. It's become very different with the foundation, largely because we access Premier League funding, whereas the club's in the Premier League. So my lens on performance is linked to like significant grants of being in the Premier League. So I've got a very different lens when I'm watching football now. Yeah. But yeah, I am a fan. I love the club. My brother had a different relationship going through as a professional footballer. So there was a time when we were both at the club, him and the first team, and me sort of trying to pave me way as a coach. So yeah, I've had a good 25, 26 years working for the club. And genuinely now, my ambition is just for the community to be able to get something out of the club other than a result. And I think hopefully we're going to try and touch on some of the ways the foundation are trying to do that, so that families in the community can have that sense of pride in the club and be proud of the work it does. So that's why I'm on calls like this, to try and just share the type of work the club's doing through the foundation. Yeah,
well, I obviously we sat through a call, and you talked me through a lot of the things that are coming up and the development of Murray House and stuff. And as I said, we've got some pictures on, so I'm looking forward to getting them up and people understanding. But you touched on there, obviously, early career at Newcastle, and obviously a certain brother of yours did go forward. So we said we would embarrass him tonight, but that was obviously David many moons back. Mm-hmm. Now, when we were chatting on the phone, and you told me a little story about David's debut. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just give the viewers a little taste of obviously his kind of as the brother, kind of his debut? And he was at Oldham to begin with, and then I think he said he came up to Newcastle other way around.
Which debut, the one for Newcastle, or all of the other debuts he had? Because he moved around a bit.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say that, so let's go with the Newcastle one.
Yeah, just the most terrifying experience of my life. Like, I used to say, so the best thing about Dave when he was at Newcastle is these 2 free complimentary tickets were in the front row of the East Stand. Nobody sits in the East Stand. It's a pretty good view, but the front row is great for a half, and that was the time when Ginola was on the wing. So for like a half, you had him 5 meters away, and it was just electric. Like, you get that close to that level of football, you just really appreciate how talented, how difficult it must be to control a ball or drop your shoulder, or the pace and the power of the bloke. So that was great. But it was the game against Middlesbrough that was the most terrifying experience ever, because Dave was just like really clever. He's a really clever kid, and if he wasn't a footballer, he'd have been an athlete. He could run fast for ages. I remember when he did his pre-season. Remember Lauren Charvet, the centre-half, full French international. Dave was 16 and they did the Maiden Castle run for pre-season, and Charvet won, and Dave finished second when he was 16, and he was devastated because this French international 20-odd-year-old had beat him at a cross-country race. But that was Dave. He could just run really quick for ages. So his debut, the bit that sticks out was when he's gone up for a header with Hamilton Rickard, and he's completely missed the ball. And by the time it's bounced, he's out the centre circle, and Dave's landed on the halfway line, and he's just absolutely sprinted back. And I used to put like a little block on in the 6-yard box and went out for a corner, and then turned around to me in the East Stand. Like, his eyes are popping out. And I just thought, I just can't deal with this. The other one was, I don't know, it was Chef Wed, or was it Everton? Maybe in Everton, when he's playing centre half, and he's ended up overlapping the left winger to put a cross in when Shearer got fouled and he scored a penalty. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing? Like he's further up the field than Ginola. But no, it's a great sense of pride. I mean, you know, he's a local lad who managed to get through the system and play for the first team. And I remember when Sir Bobby Robson came in, he kind of realised that he needed to learn his trade. And he said, look, where we are now, you can't make too many mistakes on the job. And he tried desperately to get him to move to Bradford or Coventry, who were in the Premier League at the time. That didn't work out. We spent a season at Grimsby in the Championship. They were top of the league at Christmas, not Liverpool out the League Cup. And like, he had a career for another 10 years after that. If it wasn't for injury, he probably would have played a bit longer. So yeah, there's and you know, it's quite interesting that there's not a lot of like football talk in our family even now. You know, Dave loved the games, was never a fan of the training. You know, I think really wanted to be a vet, but you don't turn down the chance to play football for Newcastle United. So, you know, so it's always been
take what you can.
Take what you can. I make the most of what you've got. But so yeah, Dave's career-wise, he started 4 games. He played a couple, but he was in that FA Cup final squad. I was just saying off air there, his FA Cup final shirt went missing for years and years, and he always said that I had that. We found it in his dad's a few weeks ago. So
so he owes you an apology. So if if he's watching, he wants to drop a message in to apologise to you, he's more than welcome.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. I think it's great. Gives the guys. Richie, we got to, before we kind of move into the whole the foundation piece of Murray House stuff. Any questions there for Steve at all, or?
No, not the minute. Gary's brought one in, but he's mainly just asking about, like with regards to the academy. It's not really about what the foundation is, but he's just thinking, where's all the next Geordies coming up and coming, like your brother and Beardsley and Shearer and stuff like that. Obviously, you might have an insight to that, but obviously not the main reason we're here tonight. But if you have any insight, then feel free.
No, there's loads of talent. I think the challenge is getting it through, isn't it? That's the challenge. You look at kids like Kel Watts, who I was coaching at 9 and 10. Just trying to find an opportunity. I mean, that's the thing with football, isn't it? It's full of opinions, and you've just got to be ready at the right time. You know, look at Adam Armstrong, what he's doing now. You probably look at his introduction to Premier League football as a young man. So I think it's difficult to produce creative players in the toughest league in the world. It's probably a bit easier. Not saying it is easier, but probably more straightforward to produce defenders because you haven't got the balls often. But there's definitely an ambition, and like, across the club, in the academy, there are some brilliant people. Like, there's some brilliant people who are completely invested their life in that club. You know, people who've been at the academy for like 25 years, never missed a beat, doing everything they can to produce local talent. So, you know, it will come through. There's some real talent in the academy now. It just needs an opportunity to play, and it's difficult, isn't it, to get through now. You've got to, at that level, you've got to be an international standard player. So I don't care where you are, but that's a tough gig.
Yeah, and it's a high standard to get to, and then be spotted at the right time, as you said, with the right opportunity. Sometimes it's just you can be really good players, but sometimes that opportunity just doesn't come because of timing, or depending on other players and different bits and pieces. But look, we kind of digress slightly, so we'll move on. So obviously you went into the foundation. So when you first got into it, in a comparison, I suppose, to kind of link it in, when you first took up the role, as you said, kind of operations manager, and then into head of the foundation, from where it was, talk us through kind of from where it was when you first went into it to, I suppose, where it is now and where it's going to go to, and that'll kind of link us nicely into Murray House and all that kind of piece of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to pretend that I did all this. I think I came in 2016. I remember Kate Bradley sort of developed the foundation from 2 people and a £50,000 grant into 100 full-time equivalent of nearly 100 people in a nearly £3 million turnover. That doesn't happen by accident. And along that way, she was the head of finance, the head of HR, the head of IT, the head of everything. So, you know, I came in 2016 because our board, which is separate. So our board is made up of some representation from the club, but it's largely independent because we're a separate charity. We're the club's charity, but we're operated legally and separately. So Kate needed to get on with the next 10 years, which was the capital development, which we're going to talk on. So what was the site of Murray House, which will become Newcastle. And that came in to help her with all of the day-to-day. And at that point, we knew we needed to get from X million, so 1.9 to 4 million in 3 years. And we had an idea how to do that. So my job was really to focus on making sure all of the staff and the programs were safe, because there's a huge reputational risk attached to Newcastle United and the type of activities we do and the type of vulnerable people we work with in the community, to make sure those programs were quality and to grow parts of the business. So the health and wellbeing department, a number of key contracts and subcontracts. So my responsibility was to report into Kate and make sure that we did all of that. And over the consequent years, we've managed to do that. We've now managed to grow to, we've just taken on 27 new staff since September. We've got another 5 appointments to fill. I think that takes up to something like 135 full-time staff and 60 sessional staff. And we're at like a turnover of £4 million, and 92 pence in every pound goes back into the community. So the more money we can raise, the more good stuff we can do in the community, basically. So my job was to support Kate. So she'd go and create this building, and that building has given us permission to develop lots of new programs for the community. So we went from working with about 40,000 people up to 65,000 people a year. So significant growth. A lot of it was quite entrepreneurial, but there was always a business plan attached to that. So so my role was to make sure that we were growing and create new programs and good outcomes. And fundamentally to all of that was to make sure we had the right people in the building. Like, we spent a lot of time making sure the right people were working with us and the wrong people perhaps weren't. And there wasn't a lot of that, but we're just after inspirational people. Like, I do a lot of stuff in education as well, and I'm not too bothered about academics, academic qualifications, academics. People, but we just want to find people who have something to give. So we are more interested in the kid who can speak 4 languages, or who might be a young carer, or has some kind of lived experience, because the foundation's product is to connect, inspire, and motivate people in the community. We're not concerned, we're not building cars, we're connecting with people, and we're doing that in a respectful way with some humility. So like, we're trying to find not teachers and coaches, but people who can just help other people. I think that's been critical, that like the standards we've got an amazing culture that like I can just nudge, but it's got nothing to do with me. That's like all of my colleagues who set the standards and support each other. And like, that's Newcastle United to me. That's the type of people that the fans would be really proud of, to see them out in the community. And I'm constantly talking about community, but I'm never really talking about fans. And the reality is, I probably need to do more of this.
Talking about fans,
because it's the same cohort. It's the same people who live in and around her. But I had a meeting with George Colkin this week, who was going to do a piece on the foundation. And he told a really interesting story about like his sense of pride before every game. He goes to the NUFC food bank. He still gets that pride attached to the club. He knows he can get that from someone. I think my role in this is that the fans can realise that the club's doing some absolutely amazing, life-changing work, but wouldn't do it if the club didn't want a charity. Like, we wouldn't have all that support. And there's a load of like really good people trying hard in that kit, but it's not like 3 o'clock on a Saturday on Sky. It's 8 o'clock on a
it's a different backroom team as such. And I think for me, like, obviously, we chatted and stuff, and then I've probably spent the last couple of weeks, learning more about the foundation and reading up more. And I think it's one of those things. Like, I knew that we had a foundation, but I didn't really have a clue what it did or what it was trying to do. And I didn't know anything about Murray House, to be honest. Even though I lived in Newcastle, I didn't even know where Murray House was until we spoke. I started looking, learning, seeing things. And I think that, to go back to your point, like, I'm based here in Dublin. I'm sure most people know. Like I work for Fife's, the banana importers. And funnily enough, I had a meeting today talking about staff and retention and everything else. And somebody said, we're not, sometimes you don't get great CVs. And I said, I'm not bothered about a great CV. You know, I want somebody that's got something about them, because I can teach them the others. I can teach them how to look at a PC. I can teach them about how to ripen a banana. I can teach them about all those other things within my industry. But I want somebody that not necessarily has, you know, 15 academic results and has done university for 3 years and, you know, did whatever. I want somebody that's just, when I sit across the table from them, has a spark, has a passion, has something about them. Because if you've got that attitude and that passion, everything else can be taught, in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, I think we, like, if you can scratch beyond the surfaces and you find, like, think about that a young carer, like all of the transferable skills that young person's going to have around empathy, dedication, work ethic, understand how the world works, like that person, and then you put them in our brand, like our club's brand, like they can set people on fire, you know, with that level of care and kindness. And like, we're not, the best work we do is like targeted interventions. You know, we teach English, maths, physical education, character education, but the bit we get right is people who are the furthest from qualifications, the furthest from a job, the furthest from a structured life. They're the people that the hook is the badge, and then we have to be really careful and respect that, and just give them loads of time and commitment, and just not go away. So our attrition is really high. People come and they keep coming. It's not just because of the badge; it's because of the people. So I think it's hard, and the thing that doesn't survive very long at the foundation is ego. No, we can't have it. You cannot have a big ego in that tracksuit. You get found out real quick, and they get turned around even quicker. You've got to be a really humble and respectful person. And I think if you can get all of those little bits right, then we're not building rockets. We're just trying to connect with people and help them on their way. So and that's where all the growth's come in the foundation. It's getting those people. And then, I mean, I spoke to you talking the other day, like genuinely my job is to make sure that our staff, frontline staff, are our number one customer, and they get all the support and resource they need, because then they'll deliver this amazing service to kids in Great North Children's Hospital, or kids who are trying to get a qualification, or kids who don't attend school. And then all you find is like those kids and their families become all of our marketing and comms. So that could be anyone in the Northeast. That could be any Geordie. They would do that. So we're just trying to find people like that and put them in a tracksuit and set them off.
Create the spark and ignite the flame as such.
Yes. I'll have that one.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. You can have that, mate. So obviously there's a good chunk going on, and we did chat. So the foundation itself, obviously Murray House as it was, I think you said, you know, kind of was getting to a point, wasn't really serving purpose as such. And so just before we throw up the pictures of kind of where we're at and to give people kind of a view, take us, obviously I'm, you know, again, me and you chatted, so I'm privy to most of it, but the likes of Richie, people listening, take us through what's the plans, what's happening, and just kind of go, when you're ready, just tell me to throw up a picture as you're talking or whatever. Take us through the plans, what's happening, what's the deal with it now?
I suppose that there's a context to all of this, and the context is Murray House. So we've commissioned a lot of historical work around Murray House, so we can do this properly. So we could just have bulldozed the building and built our own, but essentially Murray House was built in, I think, 1937, and it was largely funded by the Royal Admiralty. And there's an alarming correlation between then and now, in that it was built because the shipyards were in decline and there was nothing for young men to do. So they wanted to get them physically active and teach them some skills. Now, nearly 90 or 100 years later, we're right back to where they started. So over in the late 70s, Murray House was the leading sort of youth services provider in the Northeast. And we've kept in touch with some of the old committee, and these are like some women who gave 40 years of their life to that building. So we, as well have with anything else, we've tried that with real respect in terms of trying to understand what the purpose of the building was initially. So there was a sort of a caveat on the land, which was around get people more active, teach skills. And I know Kate Bradley was looking for, we could have built this building anywhere, and we could have probably built it cheaper and bigger anywhere, but we wanted to be city centre. We wanted a connection with St James's Park. We keep telling people we're a goal kick away, but it's probably 2 goal kicks away. But we are really close, on the corner of the Helix site, on the corner of Arthur's Hill. So we took over, the building was essentially condemned in about 2015 or 2016, just out of disrepair. And we took the building over and then started the campaign to raise the funds to build which is now renamed Newcastle. So NU as in Newcastle United.
Yeah, I think I have it here.
And it was, looking back, it's a bit like naming a child, where you come up with 100 names and everybody will tell you why it shouldn't be called that. So we should have just presented it to the world as Newcastle. But we've got some significant public, private and voluntary sector partners who've helped us raise the funds to deliver this building. So essentially we bulldozed the old Murray House November last year, and then we get the keys to Newcastle on the 22nd or 29th of November this year. So it's been 5 years in the making. But yeah, we will move out of St James's Park and into this building, which will provide far more access for the community. So we're based in St James's now, and as you can imagine, it's a very corporate environment where not everyone can just walk off the street and access services. So it's a significant part in our future. We had a staff meeting last week, and I was trying to explain this allows us to be the new version of the old foundation in terms of our own facility, new initiatives and programs. And I'll touch on some of the new interventions that the community can access from the building. But yeah, it's hugely exciting. So we're hoping as many people, well, the prudent plan for that building is that we'll get at least another 100,000 people per year accessing services.
Very good. We have that one. We think that's the front, and then we did say that there's probably a bit of change on this one, but this is, I suppose, a bit of an inside. The reception, so it's changed a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it gives you an idea of the scale of the building. So essentially, we'll have a physical activity on the ground floor, learning and skills in the middle, and then we're putting a really iconic top grade multi-surface pitch on the roof. So that view from the roof, you'll be able to sort of looking north, overlook St James's Park. So yeah, we expect it to be a thriving centre. And it's interesting. It's not like a sports centre. It's not a community hub. It's kind of a mixture of the two. But it's allowed us to look at different ways to support the community. So there's going to be a huge part of that, which is a partnership with the North of Tyne Combined Authority around a programme called New Futures. So that's a collaboration between Newcastle United, the foundation, local businesses, schools, and other education partners around having a more dynamic and inclusive economy. So I think if you look on the back of COVID, social mobility for perhaps young people who already didn't have very much is going the worst it's ever been. So we're trying to narrow those inequalities and promote more social mobility. So we'll have and a lot of it around the ambition to pursue careers and local growth in the Northeast. So New Futures will be, I think it'll be one of the biggest careers and employment offers in the Northeast. We're already working with over 180 businesses. We'll have a huge STEM room from the building, lots of virtual reality around future careers. We're talking to British Volt. We're talking to the All Caterpillar to develop all the wind turbines, working with Port of Blythe. So whether you are, I suppose the important bit of that, Mon, is we have no skin in the game. We're not education. We're not a company. We're not a training provider, and try and find the right opportunity for the right young people. So we'll work with about 11,000 young people, 11 to 16-year-olds every year, just talking about careers and opportunities. And the jobs of the future haven't been created yet, but we are already working with the NHS to develop virtual reality training modules. So we'll provide even extra support for those disadvantaged and disengaged young people to try and help them with their ambition. So, everyone can realize their potential. So we already did that kind of work, but the building's allowed us to do loads more. We're launching the first esports qualification in the Northeast with Newcastle College. It's got 60 learners on that they've started already. So that's like the future of gaming. And yeah, it's all a little bit, I'm not
huge on esports and gaming, but it's certainly a growth area, and we're working with Newcastle College to develop a brand new qualification. So we would never have done any of that without the building. So yeah, it is loads to do, but it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think one of the things I was thinking about after we had our call, and I was kind of thinking back, and you were talking about some of the things that we're doing, and I was driving into work to follow them on. I kind of thought one of the big things for me as time has changed, and certainly in Ireland where I am, there's no real youth clubs anymore. There doesn't appear to be that kind of setup. Like I can remember being a kid, living outside of Newcastle, like a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, used to go to the youth club.
Yeah.
And, you could play five-a-side for your half hour. There was a little tuck shop there. You could sit and have a bit of crack with your mates, and, occasionally be a couple of girls there. So you might go on a Thursday just in case we're back, I'm not saying I used to do that, but I'm just saying that it used to happen with other people I know. But I was just saying, my lad is 16, and he's doing what they call in Ireland transition year. So over here, you can kind of leave school quite early, or you can go into a transition year where you do more educational stuff. So you do woodwork, and you're doing, you do like I did when I was a kid. You go off and you do work experience twice a year through that transition year, and it just gives you more skill sets and more, I suppose, a bit more cop on coming out of school after having done your exams, that you've kind of had that bit of experience. Now, he plays rugby, not really into football or soccer at all. So, and I certainly wouldn't punish him by making him follow Newcastle. But I just think at the minute, I'm kind of glad he plays the rugby. But when I look back at his, 12, 13, 14, as he was kind of transitioning, I suppose, from being a kid to a teen and an adolescent, no youth clubs for him, nowhere to go and, spend a bit of time and do something a bit recreational. And I suppose one of the question I'm getting to, and the link to the foundation, do you think that some of the issues with some ages of kids or with youth is that the fact that the youth clubs and that have kind of disappeared? And do you think that the foundation helps with that piece of it, or do you think we need to go back and we need to see the reinvention of the youth club at all? I suppose I'm interested to know.
Well, there's a statistic on the last 2 years, £121 million been stripped out of youth services in the last 2 years alone. So the answer is yes. I think austerity clearly didn't help, but we got together with any youth and youth focus North East and the Prince's Trust about 2 months ago to talk about that exact challenge around what happens to the young people where home life isn't very good, school isn't very good, what happens to them. And that's where people like ourselves and those other youth services need to fill a hole. And that's where the building, we hope, will fill a hole around having a safe place for young people to come and hang out. And that's, I suppose, the bit that we do really well is we kind of do that through our Premier League Kicks programme across 13 venues, where 6 to 8 on a Friday night, young people turn up and play football. And everything like that in our walking football sessions, people turn up to just do the football, but actually all the important conversations happen at the side of the pitch around what you're doing for volunteering, qualifications, jobs, what's your plan, where you're going, how can we help? But because we've got such a mix of different funders, we're comfortable that we can continue to maintain those services. Youth provision was 100% funded through local authorities, and then when that got the cut, that was that. So there's just there'll be a whole cohort of young people from 2011 who've had no free access places that can just go away from their family with their friends that are safe, and they can, without knowing it, think about investing in themselves and their future. So I totally get it. And there'll probably be lots of studies done between, what kids get up to now, because there's not a lot of structured activities for them. I mean, we put on 1,000 hours of activity a week. That's what we're delivering, 700,000 hours of physical activity a year. But some of those services, they're very small services, but they're very niche. They're excellent. We know of a one man and his dog type setups in Northumberland who are doing amazing work around substance abuse. But they're very vulnerable because their ability to track funding is almost
very limited.
So we're trying to come together as sort of like almost a third sector alliance and sort of take all of our logos off and say, actually, if we're looking at Martin Son and we looked at all of our assets and programs and people, let's put it back together in a way that provides amazing outcomes for Martin. And those other organisations are open to that. But I think that's just kind of where we are. That we can then go to commissioners and funders and say, we've reduced all of our silo work and we've got our bit together. You need to get the funding together. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely an issue. Correct, yeah. I mean, kids are running around less than they ever have. There's less reason for them to run around because computer games are really engaging. But I don't know.
Also destroying that adolescence at the same time. I think for me, having young kids, and it's like I'm actually quite happy this week because the rugby season has restarted. So my lad's gone back, and obviously because of lockdown and everything else, there's been nothing for 18 months. So it's great just to get them back out into activity off the streets. Because again, when I was a kid, you got into an odd rumble. It wasn't as half as bad as it is now. You might have got a slap, but that was it. Whereas, it's a completely different genre, unfortunately, for our kids and our teens at the moment. One of the things we touched on, which you want to talk about, you said link into services and everything else. One of the things that I'm very interested in, as a show, we've had a very close link with a mental health service called Mind, Body and Soul. Over the last year, and I'm sure Richie will touch on what he wants to touch on, but I did say this to you, Steve, in the phone call we had. I've suffered from some mental health issues in the last year. Made no secrets about it. Unfortunately, 2 occasions my mother tried to end things. My dad passed this year in June. Whole heap of different things, and one of the things we spoke about was, in particular, lads and men not having this ability to kind of come forward and go, hey, do you know what? I'm in trouble here, and I'm not feeling right, and I'm working hard, but my brain, the head's not in it, and I'm not eating well, I'm not sleeping, and there's this stigma around men's mental health. So we kind of linked in with Mind, Body and Soul. There was very much a service for people to kind of reach out, contact, and do different bits. One of the things you were telling us coming on air is that the foundation are obviously very, very much linked into Be a Game Changer, but you've got something new that you've got into that you're going to give us a little bit of info on tonight.
I am, yeah. I mean, we're very proud of the Be a Game Changer program. It was, when we developed our health and wellbeing team, I think it was about 2017 or 18. We knew that this statistic around the Northeast and men over 40. I was going to say our age, but I don't know how Richie is, but old Richie is. But
I'm old enough.
We're all
men our age, and the statistic around 1 in 4 men, the biggest risk in their life is them taking their own life. So we got together at the club and thought, like, what's the club's role in that? It's certainly not to be the professional services at the end of a crisis call, but actually, when we looked at St James's Park, like sit in St James's Park and look at the Holy Stand, and that's a number of colleagues and fans who are at risk. So then we've got a commitment, because what the club can do is communicate a message, and that was part of the campaign. That to one population approach where we want to reduce stigma around mental health and promote positive mental health, and really, if there's another person joins this call, it's about 3 of we're looking out for the 4th one. That's the power of what we can do. Some of the marketing material we've put out has really been heavily linked towards, we're all coming together, we're all talking about something already. Like just talk about one other thing. Let's just be aware of where people are at and try and reduce the stigma around people having any sort of mental health challenges, whether that's a wobble before work or somebody who's really depressed and going through a panic attack or whatever it might be. And then also being very clear that actually, if you are at a crisis point, you shouldn't phone the foundation. You should phone the professionals. Yeah. So I think, and then we've got other targeted interventions around behaviour change. We've got a programme called The 12th Man that we could fill about 10,000 times. But and that's a joint PhD study where in the 3rd of 5 years delivering with Newcastle University around how do you change behaviour. And all of that is linked with physical activity and workshops, some around managing sleep, managing stress, managing anxiety, your diet, physical activity. None of it around telling you what you have to do, but like suggesting what you could do. What we found with that is if you bring a group of Geordies together who love the club, the glue that makes a difference is them and that social identity and being together on that journey and doing it at St James's Park and doing it with the club. Yeah. It makes such a significant difference. And the Newcastle City Council are sort of match funders in that programme. And they want to be able to scale it. And you can scale it, but you have to build your football club now. And in about 130 years' time, you can do it because it's all of that generational love people have for the club that makes them come to us rather than going and talk to the GP. Yeah. So we've got the next version of our Big Game Changer campaign is the text. So there's on the bottom of your screen there. What that is. Again, forgive me for reading this out. If I get it wrong, Ashley Lowe, our health and wellbeing manager, will absolutely kill us. But basically, if you're struggling to cope and you need to talk, trained volunteers are here for you day and night. So it's free, confidential, anonymous tech support service. It's powered by Shout, so that's a lot of trained volunteers who can, at any time of the day, can get back to you. There's text free from anywhere in the UK. So, and then, if your life's in danger, you need to phone somebody. You need to phone the police, you need to phone the Samaritans, you need to phone professionals. But actually, we're just building more capacity around fans being able to support each other. So you'll see lots of these cards around Newcastle and the North East. So I just deposit in them everywhere, spent a fortune on them. So we're just going to get them anywhere we can and just leave them lying around. You don't have to be a Newcastle United fan to do this, but this is a campaign that started as an idea. It became a campaign and now it's a movement because other people are championing it and they're taking it forward. And I think Newcastle fans are really proud of it. So we'll go back to George Colton's story about the food bank. The fans have took this where they want to take it. Got other clubs at Southampton are talking about copying it, modelling it. We had conversations with them. We're talking with other clubs. We spoke to the Premier League. It's reached 2 million people so far. And that's largely because the Geordies have picked it up and went, this is a topic that we want to talk about. It is important. I will have the conversation. But now we're just giving them perhaps even more resource to say, look, you don't need to speak to me. Like, here's a confidential text. Speak to somebody who's professional. So wherever you are on that mental health, things can get better. And sometimes you might just have to reach out to somebody. Personally, I've done the mental health first aid training. I still don't feel comfortable dealing with something, some situations. But actually, what we're providing through Shout is an opportunity for people to just pick up their phone and text and get a reply and start a conversation. And hopefully that will provide somebody somewhere with just some solace. So we're trying to get it as far as we can. So feel free to promote that as much as you want. But look, it's a real thing.
No, we will.
It's not going anywhere, is it? So let's try and be part of the solution.
Absolutely. So you can see at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll get that out on Twitter tonight as well, on Loaded and mine and Richie's personal accounts. So if you want to use the service, as Steve said, it's a confidential 24-hour hotline, free service. You can text from anywhere in the UK. So text BAGC to 85258. So that's BAGC to 85258. Anywhere in the UK. It's a free line. And go out there, text it if you need to talk to someone and use that service. So it's an excellent initiative. Josh Barnyard, who I know you know really well, has spoke to you before, made a quick comment there, said it's not just Geordies, anyone can use it. It's out there, and go and use it. So what we'll do certainly over our shows, Steve, what we'll do is we will promote that on every show, and all of our tweets that go out, we'll get that out. And we, the guys at Loaded HQ and Loaded Mag, we will support that campaign and we will push that as much as we can in future shows. So we'll leave that running. So Foundation Future, where from you personally, again, you're working with a massive team of people, and as you said, it's not just you. Mm-hmm. But what's the dream? Where do you want the foundation to be? Is there an end goal, or is it continuous improvement and keep going? What's the goals, I suppose?
Because if you're talking what's our mission is to unite the community. That's the mission. It's unite the community with pride and passion. It shouldn't be achievable. That's what we should be driving for. That the club, our foundation, and that branch means something to a lot of people. And how do we connect as many of them as we can? So that's genuinely what we're trying to do. I think we've got this building, which has took 5 years. It's something that will provide opportunities, like I said, for another 100,000 people access some of our programs and interventions. I think I'm on calls like this because I want to speak. I want to broadcast to a different audience. I want the fans to know that there's free services, free programs, free interventions for them that their club provides, right up to Berwick, across Newcastle, North Tyneside, Gateshead and County Durham. And it's when you think about the type of stories we have. We've got a gentleman on our Walking Football programme who comes to play Walking Football, scored 2,000 goals. He keeps track of them himself, by the way, so I'm not entirely sure. We've got my trophy now, so I'm not entirely sure we can challenge him on any of it. But he hadn't played football for 25 years and he plays 4 times a week now. He didn't join that program because he knew it was about social isolation. He saw the badge and he had the confidence to come out and do something because it was the club. The GP couldn't have done that. His family certainly were struggling to get him out of the house. And now he's got a small network of friends who he goes and gets their milk. They put his bin out. They pick each other up. They talk about the tune. And we've got some funding through suicide prevention. And the Christmas before lockdown, they came to 9 Bar and the Gallagher, and there was 100 and odd men who had turned up to talk about mental health, and they couldn't believe that you get that many men in the room. John Anderson spoke. There were some of their former players spoke about mental health, and they've backed us every year since that. And they wanted to do that. We just facilitated it. So that's kind of what does the future hold? The future holds more of the fans understanding what the club's trying to do in the community, and more fans accessing our interventions as fans rather than us going and getting participants from the community. Yeah. So and I think if I get that right, the club haven't asked me to do this. If I get that right, we get it already. That you'll see someone who's on a program 10 years ago, they'll not remember what we did with them, but they'll know it was important. And hopefully, people will give the club credit for not making a big song and dance about it, but changing people's lives in the community.
Doing the right thing.
They set this up 13 years ago, didn't have to do it. And they certainly didn't have to support us on our growth because we carry so much risk in terms of the scale of people we work with. Imagine if we did anything wrong, it'd be on the front of the Chronicle within a second. Yeah. So we carry so much risk on behalf of the club, and they just champion what to do more. So that's a bit for me. What's the future hold? It holds that there's a fan base that can get some pride from the type of work the club's doing that really isn't about kick off on Saturday. It's start 8 o'clock Monday morning and we'll work through it Sunday night, 50 weeks of the year. So I don't know how we do that, but hopefully we'll just keep our heads down and keep grafting away, and more of the fans will get an opportunity to access services through the building.
Brilliant. We've got about 10 minutes left. So what I want to do very, very quickly is just flick this up. We will put the Be a Game Changer one back up, but just very, very quickly, if you haven't gone online and looked at the foundation, look at the cracking stuff that they do, the programs, everything that's happening, get online and you'll find the foundation at www.nufoundation.org.uk. Go on there. I've probably spent the last week or so just looking at different bits on it, find out more, reading stuff on Twitter. You can follow them on Twitter. Again, me and Richie will put some stuff out in the comments and different bits and pieces. We'll put the links out to the foundation. We'll put the details about the text line and stuff like that. But genuinely, I think it's one of those things that isn't talked about enough, and until you know more about it and the amazing services that Steve and the team at the foundation are putting in, and the amount of time and effort that goes into it that is very much unsung, you will actually be amazed by what you find. So get on there and have a look. It is really, really good. And go up there and have a look. And when Murray House is opened and everything else, go up there, go and spend some time, go and have a cuppa, and go up and meet the team there and see everything that there is.
So, Mark, we'll be opening the building in March next year. So there'll be some sort of fan engagement around one of the games in March. So we'll definitely do that. I think we've got a YouTube channel which has all of our case study videos on there. So if you want to get to the type of work we do and see the impact, go on our YouTube channel, and there's videos around the building. There's lots of case studies attached on there, but people will get a sense of the type of work we do. And there's always ways that people can support us on that. We've got we have constantly fundraising. We had 30 people run the Great North Run for. We have auctions. We auction off all the first teams playing strips at the end of the season. We'll have an auction on our annual dinner. So our annual dinner's in November. We also induct former players into the Hall of Fame. So I can't share who's going in this year, but there's two serious Newcastle United legends will be going in the Hall of Fame at our dinner as well. So there's lots of ways that people can support the work of the foundation by just getting in touch.
Yeah, very good. Well, we did when we did chat on the phone, and you said to me that you're gonna be doing the opening in March. I have made a commitment that I will hop a flight and I am going to come over, and I'm going to come over for the opening because I really want to see that. So I will make that commitment that I will hop a jet and come over. And certainly because I haven't even we've been doing these shows for best parts of half a year now, and other shows with Steve Wraith and some of the others, and I haven't even met Richie in person yet because of COVID. So that's my commitment. I'm going to come over for March. I'm going to see the opening and meet Steve and the team and spend the day up there. I'm really looking forward to it. So we will do that. So we're kind of run out of time. We're down to the last couple of minutes. So I think what we'll do, Richie, any questions? I can see there's a few questions there, but I have a funny feeling they're probably questions about the club and other things going on. So we're not going to get into them.
To be fair, there's nothing in regards that I haven't really put up just to show what Steve's actually been talking about. I think what I wanted to mention from a personal note regarding the foundation, like you already mentioned, people run fundraising to the Great North. When I had the privilege of doing it 4 years ago for the foundation, it was nice to get that little reward of just going to. I was able to take my son to his first ever Premier League game against Chelsea. So I think it was 4 years ago I did it. It wasn't a very enjoyable experience, but that's a different story.
I was just going to say I'm not volunteering for next year because my knees wouldn't get me up the Marsden Road anymore. So
no, it wasn't that. It was the fact that I had blisters all over me feet from Whitemare Pool roundabout for the second half of the journey, so I literally couldn't. I was barely able to walk, but I
could walk it now if it was over a weekend. I'd commit to that now.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant experience trying to walk as fast as you can with about 5 blisters on each of your feet. It was something I was determined to do because obviously, so many people have been able to donate that to a fantastic cause.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
My son's been some of the foundation coaching schools that you've had on in the half terms when you've come down towards Chesley Street. He's done that a couple of times. And just, going off some few of the things that you've actually been talking about things going forward, about your physical and mental health, which, you really championed to be a game changer. Now, as Martin touched on, we've both had mental health problems ourselves. And luckily that, I still have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis like majority of people do. It's an ongoing thing. It's just how you deal with it and stuff like that. But one of the things that I actually was part of beforehand, but it wasn't run properly, was a weight loss football league. Yeah. So, it incorporates getting people active again who, like as you mentioned before about the walking football, that guy hadn't been there doing any football for 25 years. Yeah. I hadn't kicked the ball for about 18 years before I started doing this type of thing. But what it was about was seeing a lot more people who were very similar to me. It was a shame that the people that the company were running were more bothered about making money as a business, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So when it came through, I actually took it on my own back to set my own up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't about cost. It was about getting people active again. We've just finished our first season. We're in our second now. We had eight people per squad, 4 squads. Over 32 people, we lost nearly 210 kilograms in 12 weeks. Yes. But not just that, it was the fact that the mental health, the camaraderie of having people in the same boat as you, it was about getting them active again. And, one of the lads, he was bigger than me, and I'm quite a big lad, but he's now got the situation over since October last year, since he got his physical mindset and his good mental mindset. he's now half the man he was a year ago, and he completed the Great North Run on Sunday in under 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he's never been as skinny as he was since when he left school. And it's people like that I set this league up for. It wasn't about the glory of it or the champion of it. It was getting people in the same sort of mindset as myself, and getting them active again. And it's through similar campaigns like what you were saying yourself, Steve, about it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to talk about stuff. Which me and Martin have got on this where we've never met each other, but we both know there's ever anything's wrong with each other. Yeah. He'll say, "Are you all right now?" Do exactly the same to him. And it's great that I've done that, and it's great that you're doing it through your different means as well. That we could, and that's one of the reasons why both myself and Martin have always been on the men's mental health, and this be a good game changer for us is a good thing going forward to back, because we're fully supportive and we try to act that way as well. It's not we're just saying it to do it; we actually do it on a day-to-day basis as well. So that's one of the things that we're proud to be part of it, and we'll have to do that going forward with yourself.
Yeah,
Steve.
we will keep promoting that exactly. All right. Well, look, we're up nearly 9 o'clock. We did say we would do an hour, and we have. So I suppose to kind of close out again, you can see on the bottom there, we'll put the details in a couple of tweets later on. Again, if you want to use that service that Steve told us about, so text BAGC to 85258. It's a confidential 24-hour hotline. It's free. You can use that at any point, anywhere in the UK. So it's there and available. If you want to know any more detail or you missed any of that, drop a tweet or a DM to me and Richie, and we'll give you the detail. I'd like personally to say massive, massive thanks to Steve for coming on and spending an hour with us. We could probably chat on probably for another 2 hours, because me and Richie love chatting around all this stuff. I'm personally looking forward to getting over in March, obviously, to come and see everything. Meet up with people and get home and stick the black and white shirt on and get up to the foundation and see that opening. So I'm really looking forward to that. So Steve, listen, from us and the lads at Loaded, massive thanks. You're a true gentleman for coming on. I wish you and all the team at the foundation all the luck for the rest of this year and into next year, and hopefully we'll see you early next year. So keep up the good work. It does make a difference, and I think certainly anybody in that area and the community as a whole should be very, very proud of you and the team and all the work you do. So I thank you very much for the effort that goes in, sir.
Thanks,
great work, Steve.
Thanks ever so much. We'll catch up with you soon. Next time we'll get why don't we get the women's team on and we'll do something around the women's team. I can get the sort of the manager on and some of the club's plans around that and our ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. I did have it in my thing, but I said we'd kind of focus tonight. But yeah, we did. That was one of the things we did chat on the phone. And I said to Steve we would chat about tonight, but we didn't get to it. But yeah, we will do. We'll
get Becky on, the manager, and
yeah, we'll get Becky on and we'll start to do it. Yeah, because it was one of the things we said we would start to do a bit on the women's team this year for Loaded Mag and start to follow them and start to look at the results and get some of the team and stuff on. So yeah, we will do that. So keep watching Loaded Mag for that. But listen, Steve, massive thanks. We'll call it a night there. Thanks to everybody that watched. Don't forget, hit the channel up, hit the like and subscribe. If you like what we do, shows the likes of Steve, the foundation top. We'll keep you all updated as we progress. As soon as we get some more pictures and we get more detail on the opening, we'll get that out. We'll even get Steve back on for a half hour to tell us about the opening and everything else. And we'll keep that. We'll keep championing the foundation and the tech service. But from me, Richie, and from Steve, thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you soon. And thanks very much for watching. We will catch you later during the week. So thanks very much. Good night, all.
Good night.